Breaking news tonight highlights a remarkable moment of cultural diplomacy between Europe and the Middle East. Italy has officially returned 13 smuggled antiquities to Iran, marking a significant gesture of respect for cultural heritage and a victory against the illegal trafficking of historical treasures. This move is being described not only as a step forward in Italy-Iran relations but also as a broader win for the global fight against the black market in artifacts. According to reports, the artifacts returned to Tehran are centuries-old items, each carrying immense historical, cultural, and symbolic value for the Iranian people. Sources in Iran's Ministry of Cultural Heritage and Tourism revealed that the objects include ancient pottery, coins, and decorative items, believed to date back to periods ranging from the Achaemenid Empire to the Sassanid dynasty. These items had reportedly been smuggled out of Iran years ago, and surfaced in the hands of private collectors and dealers within Europe before Italian authorities seized them during investigations into the illegal antiquities trade. Officials in Tehran have welcomed the handover as a proud moment for the country, which has been battling for decades to retrieve stolen cultural property from around the world. Iran's Cultural Heritage Organization has stated that this return highlights the importance of international cooperation in protecting the world's shared history. A senior official noted that every artifact tells the story of Iran's civilization, and when these treasures are smuggled, not only is our heritage stolen, but a part of humanity's shared history is lost. Italian officials also underscored their commitment to cultural justice. In a joint press conference, representatives from the Italian Ministry of Culture explained that the repatriation was made possible through legal action and bilateral collaboration. They emphasized that Italy has been a global leader in the recovery of stolen art and antiquities, often working with Interpol and UNESCO to ensure cultural treasures are returned to their countries of origin. This case, they argued, is an example of how determined international partnerships can defeat criminal networks profiting from the illegal sale of antiquities. Experts say the return of these artifacts has both symbolic and diplomatic significance. Symbolically, it sends a clear message that nations will no longer tolerate the exploitation of cultural heritage for profit. Diplomatically, it strengthens ties between Rome and Tehran at a time when relations have faced challenges due to broader geopolitical tensions, sanctions, and disagreements between Iran and Western nations. Cultural diplomacy often plays a quiet but powerful role in bridging divides, and this gesture by Italy may open space for further dialogue on other pressing issues. Analysts point out that the illicit trade in antiquities is one of the largest black markets in the world, often tied to organized crime and sometimes even terrorism financing. Middle Eastern countries, in particular, have seen countless treasures smuggled during times of conflict and political instability. From Syria to Iraq and Afghanistan, war and unrest have provided fertile ground for looters. Iran, with its rich and diverse history stretching thousands of years, has often been targeted by traffickers who know that rare Persian artifacts can fetch millions on the international market. The return of these 13 objects, while small in number, is part of a much larger battle. Over the past decade, Iran has actively pursued dozens of similar cases, sometimes in European courts, to reclaim its lost heritage. Each success is seen as an affirmation of the principle that cultural property belongs to the people and nation from which it originates. For ordinary Iranians, the return is deeply emotional. Local media outlets in Tehran reported that crowds gathered at the National Museum to view the returned artifacts once they were put on display. Visitors expressed pride and joy at seeing objects that had once been stolen from their land finally brought home. One Iranian citizen interviewed by state media said, "These artifacts are not just ancient objects, they are part of our identity. Their return is like a piece of our soul being restored." International observers have praised the development as well. UNESCO officials welcomed the move as an example of how international law and cooperation can yield results in the fight against smuggling. They also reiterated the need for stronger protections for cultural heritage in regions vulnerable to looting. UNESCO has long advocated for tighter border controls, harsher penalties for smugglers, and stricter regulation of the antiquities market, particularly in Western capitals where many stolen items often end up in auction houses or private collections. The repatriation may also influence other European countries holding disputed artifacts. Calls are growing louder for museums and governments to re-evaluate their collections and return items obtained through colonial exploitation, theft, or illicit trade. Italy's action could set an example for others to follow, reinforcing the idea that moral responsibility and cultural respect should guide modern policy. At the political level, while the return of artifacts is primarily cultural in nature, analysts believe it may soften the diplomatic climate between Italy and Iran. In recent years, Iran's relations with the West have been dominated by discussions on nuclear policy, sanctions, and regional conflicts. However, cultural gestures like this highlight areas where constructive cooperation is still possible. Some observers speculate that cultural diplomacy could even play a role in easing broader tensions, opening indirect channels for dialogue. Looking ahead, Iran is expected to continue pressing for the return of artifacts from museums and private collections worldwide. Authorities in Tehran have already announced that they will step up legal and diplomatic efforts to reclaim treasures currently held in the United States, the United Kingdom, and other European nations. Each case may be complex, but the successful recovery from Italy has given Iran new momentum. This story also raises awareness about the need for public responsibility. Experts emphasize that collectors, museums, and the art market must verify the provenance of items before purchase. Without demand, the supply chain of smuggled artifacts collapses. Greater awareness among the public and stricter regulations among institutions can together help curb this billion-dollar illegal trade. In conclusion, Italy's return of 13 smuggled antiquities to Iran is much more than a cultural exchange. It is a statement of respect for history, an act of justice against smugglers, and a hopeful sign for the role of culture in international relations. While global headlines are often dominated by conflict, war, and political strife, this development shows that cooperation is still possible and that nations can come together in defense of humanity's shared heritage. For Iran, the artifacts now safely home are not just objects of beauty, they are symbols of resilience, identity, and pride.